Hello Mzansi, you are listening to Farmers Inside Track, proudly brought to you by Food for Mzansi. Officially, this is the world's best podcast for 2024 as awarded by One IFRA, the global organization for the world's press. I'm your host, Duncan Masiwa, and a warm welcome to you. In this episode, we unpack the impact of extended producer responsibility regulations on the plant protection industry with Dr. Gerhard Verdoon, Operations and Stewardship Manager at CropLife South Africa, as well as Quade Sing Jam, Compliance Specialist at CropLife South Africa. Now, from understanding the goals of the EPR regulations under the National Environmental Management Waste Act to exploring the responsibilities of pesticide producers and the consequences of non-compliance, our experts provide clarity on this critical topic. We also dive into CropLife South Africa's compliance journey and highlight their producer responsibility organization successes for 2024. Dr. Gerhard, Quade, welcome to Farmers Inside Track.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Duncan. Always a pleasure being with you.
Fantastic. Of course, as per the introduction, we're talking the extended producer responsibility. Maybe set the scene for us, Dr. Gerhard. What is the aim of the EPR regulations of the National Environmental Management Waste Act?
Well, it's a very good concept that came out of the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment, and it's been coming for quite a while. In 2021, in November, they published the first EPR regulations as the broad umbrella under which all industries fall. And the plant protection industry is one of the industries that actually have to comply with that particular set of regulations. And the base of the regulations is there to contain and to manage solid waste in the country. Our country is littered with solid waste. All over the country, you see solid waste lying around, food packaging materials, industrial packaging materials, computers, televisions. We know about all pesticides, pesticide drums, all that sort of stuff. And the Department of Environmental Affairs just said, cannot continue longer like this. We cannot have landfills where we dump everything in that landfill, which is from diapers and computers and computer screens and toxic waste and stuff into a landfill, because the landfills are totally overflown and they poison the environment around them. So the Department of Environmental Affairs said, let us establish a system where we give a responsibility to the manufacturer of commodity to take care of that commodity and its packaging at the end of the life cycle of that particular commodity. And to make it easier for our listeners in our sector, in the case of a pesticide, that commodity will be a pesticide in a packaging, or as we call it in more common terms, a container. So if you sell a pesticide into the market out there, and I am the client as a homeowner or a farmer or a gardener or a pest control operator, and I use the pesticide, it is your responsibility as a manufacturer to give me a system whereby, as the end user of that particular commodity, can get rid of a clean, empty container in a responsible way. And also, if there's any leftover pesticide, which is of no use to me anymore, to get rid of that pesticide in a responsible and a legal way, so that we don't contaminate the environment any longer with pesticide packaging and with pesticide obsolete stocks. That's what we call any leftover pesticide. We use the term obsolete stocks. And that is what the aim was of the environmental affairs, and in particular for our industry that works as a separate unit under the EPR regulations.
The issues that are being targeted here have definitely become a great concern. But help us understand, Doctor, how do the EPR regulations affect the plant protection industry?
Well, in our case, as CropLife South Africa, nothing really sinister. We've been running an EPR type of a scheme since 2010, when we started working on the collection of empty pesticide containers on the farms. And in the first couple of years, it was quite a steep learning curve for me, because it was my pet project in CropLife South Africa. So long before the department came out with regulations, we had a system going for collection of empty pesticide packaging and containers from the farms. What happened was, when the department promulgated the EPR scheme for the pesticide sector in March 2023, they gave us a legal mandate that we could now operate formally with the backing of the Department of Environmental Affairs as a legal entity, to have a bit of teeth, as we always call it within CropLife, is to say that if you're a member of CropLife SA, or if you're not a member of CropLife SA, by law, you have to register yourself as a pesticide producer with the Department of Environmental Affairs under the South African Waste Information Centre system. And you have to contribute money towards a collective system, which we call a product responsibility organization, which is what CropLife South Africa is currently. And we collect that money then on behalf of all our participants or subscribers. We keep the money separate from all the other money in CropLife SA, and the money is then ring-fenced for the management. In other words, we use the word management for the collection and disposal of any pesticide packaging, and for the collection and disposal of any unwanted or leftover or obsolete pesticides. That is the way in which it works. So the only burden that the state placed on us was we had to start with a formal structure, which fortunately in our case we had, because we had a system in place already. We were already registered as a not-for-profit organization, which is what is demanded by the EPR regulation for any product responsibility organization. The only real burden came into the effect when we had to start collecting money from our members to fund the operation. And that was a blessing for us, because in the past we begged for money and nobody was very keen. But I'm proud to say that before our regulations came into place for the pesticide sector, 67% of our members started voluntarily contributing money towards our PRO system, so that we could fund or catalyze more operations out there for collecting of empty containers, and that we could start collecting obsolete pesticides and have them properly disposed of, which is by its innovation in the country. So we were, I think, a little bit ahead of the state. We got actually wonderful support from them, and our system is operating, I would say, fairly smooth, because we had something in place long before the regulations or the laws came into place that compelled us to do something in terms of pesticide packaging and obsolete pesticides.
Quade, let me swing the mic to you for a second. So clearly a lot of effort has been going into collecting empty pesticide containers and the disposal thereof. Does every registration of a plant protection product have to be registered with the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment?
The answer to that is yes, it is mandatory. And the regulation makes that very clear, because the wording in the regulation is such as that the producer or existing producers of identified products must register with the department within 6 months. So it is not nice to have an option to join. You have to comply with this regulation within its fullest capacity. And the reason for being this is that the industry, as doctors mentioned, has the responsibility to manage the life cycles of these products. And by managing the life cycles of these products, then within these regulation or regulatory guidelines, there's a traceability and accountability for the actual production or usage and sales of these pesticides. And we can trace then the volumes that has been sold within the industry as well, and also the recovery or the recycling of the products at the end of the day. Because all of this data gets collated with our reports back into the FFE, and these data then get submitted on an annual basis to evaluate and to get the progress of how the system is actually working and the compliance thereof. So Duncan, the answer to that is definitely yes.
So then after registering with the DFFE, which is the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment, what is a pesticide producer compelled to do in terms of the EPR regulations, Dr. Gerhard?
Well, there are two options, and I must again congratulate the Department of Environment for giving people a bit of leeway. So you've got two choices as a pesticide producer. You either join an existing producer organization in your sector. In other words, in our sector, it is called the pesticide sector, and you pay your dues and you abide by that particular PRO's code of conduct with all the requirements of that particular PRO. And you basically hand over the mandate for your pesticide in terms of obsolete stocks and empty containers over to the PRO for the PRO to manage it. That's why you pay a fee towards it. If you decide you don't want to join a pesticide PRO like the CropLife SA PRO, you can also establish your own not-for-profit organization as a PRO and register that PRO then to the Department of Environmental Affairs under the SAVIC system. But then you've got to do all the compliance issues there. And believe me, there are a lot of compliance issues that you have to do. And that's why most of the industry have joined the CropLife SA PRO, because we have the system in place. We've got all the compliance in place. And it is easier then to work in the collective and try to do it on your own as a single company. It simply doesn't make sense, because I can tell you, I worked out a year or two ago when we started debating how to collect money from our members. In the time when I started up in 2010 with the empty container program that we have in CropLife SA, up until the time when the Department of Environmental Affairs started promulgating regulations for us, we saved our industry the better part of a minimum of 77 million rand in costs, because we got all these volunteers and companies that started up their own businesses to collect empty containers, because it's a lucrative business out there for especially the high density polyethylene plastics. So it just makes sense for a pesticide producer then to go the option of joining an existing EPRO, because the structures are there, the infrastructures are there, the management is there, the financial management systems are there, the reporting systems are there for reporting back into the DFFE that demands it on a 6 monthly basis. So it just makes sense then to go along with a PRO and rather establishing your own PRO. But the option is there for somebody to decide, well, I don't want to join an existing PRO. I want to establish my own not-for-profit organization and run my own PRO and collect all my own empty containers and my upload pesticides from my farms, or from the homeowners, or then from the pest control operators.
Dr. Gerhard, it definitely sounds like a no-brainer to me. Quade, let's pretend for a second that a pesticide producer is not compliant with the EPR regulations. What happens if a pesticide producer is not compliant?
Well, Duncan, it is clear within the regulations that if you are a product registration holder, that your product registration should be revoked. And I mean, there is no ways that you're going to get the renewal of your registrations. At the end of the day, putting your business in jeopardy in regards to that. So as Dr. now just previously mentioned as well, if you do not do this, then you are either compelled to join another scheme or create your own. But at the end of the day, you're going to be stuck without any registrations, and that would be detriment to your business.
Quade said there is interesting, because that's a new sub-regulation that came out of regulation for agricultural remedies. In other words, the Registrar of Act 36 says that you, as a registration holder, shall belong to a PRO. Doesn't matter which PRO, you shall belong to it. But on the Department of Environmental Affairs under the EPR, if you do not comply with the EPR regulation by not registering yourself as a pesticide producer on the SABIC website and joining a PRO, they can issue you with a Section 30C directive to tell you that within 30 days, you must either establish your own PRO or you must have an existing PRO, and there's certain penalty clauses linked to that. And if you don't comply with that, then I would say that all hell will break loose upon you, because the penalties under the National Environmental Management Act are severe. It's harsh compared to what is under Act 36. For example, under Act 36, your maximum penalty is something like 1,000 Rand and or 2 years imprisonment. Or, like Quade said, worst of all, you lose your registration. In other words, you lose your business. Under the National Environmental Management Act, the penalties there start at 5 million Rand, and they can go up to 10 million Rand and or 10 years imprisonment. So there's a lot of negative clauses that can fall down upon your shoulders if you do not comply with the EPR regulations.
And Duncan has previously mentioned as well, and that's not either or, you can actually have both penalties imposed on you. You'll be fined and imprisonment. It depends on the severity of your transgression at the end of the day.
So definitely an important conversation to have. And of course, thank you to CropLife South Africa for bringing it to our attention. Dr. Gerhard, what is CropLife South Africa's situation in terms of the EPR regulations?
The day that they promulgated the regulations on the 23rd of March 2023, I registered CropLife SA as a PRO, a pesticides PRO on the SABIC website. And a month later, we got our PRO number, and we became registered as currently the only pesticide PRO in the country. Then I had to start doing all the paperwork and all the compliance things, like drawing up the reporting formats, getting our members on board to start signing up to register themselves as producers and to start paying us the money that they were supposed to pay or compelled to pay in terms of the regulations, and getting all the statistics in. In other words, we asked them for a forecast of what quantity of pesticide containers they put into market every year, and also what quantity of pesticide volumes they put into market every year. I'm very happy and very proud to say that we're currently sitting with 89 members or subscribers in our PRO, and the reporting was actually excellent to the point that we know that South Africa produces 95,000 tons of pesticides per year, And just to give an idea of one of the pesticide types of containers, which is the HDPED, or high-density polyethylene drums, is the biggest volume of a containers. We put about 8,600 tons of that into the market every year. So this is what the DFFE wants from us. They want to know what we put in the market and what do we recover from our market. And luckily, even before we started with a PRO in terms of what the department wanted from us, we had the stat report formats already in place. We call it the Cody Intel, or Container Disposal Intel Declaration, that the recyclers complete for the farmers or for the homeowners or for the PCOs. And we get that back at the end of each financial year. And we compile that in a record sheet. And up until last year, we were not very accurate. I would say we were about 80% to 90% accurate with the stuff. But as the department started giving us the mandate and actually forcing us to become more compliant, our data confidence is now sitting at 95 or even a higher percentage in terms of what we put into the market as an industry and what we recover back from the market. And it certainly opened my eyes to the fact that we are doing pretty well on things like the plastics and on the steel, but on things like our data side boxes, for example, or cardboard boxes or paper bags, we are not doing well. So that is a warning flag going up for me as the manager of the PRO to say, next year we must put some extra effort into that. The CropLife SA PRO, I think, is in fairly good standing. Our interim report was submitted to the DFFE in the middle of the year, and we are now gearing ourselves up to prepare for the final report, which must be submitted to them by the end of March next year. And part of the final report is a totally audited and signed off financial report. In other words, they want to know that our money that we gathered from our subscribers was spent responsibly in terms of not only in terms of what the PRO demands and what the DFFE demands, but also in terms of the South African Revenue Service. And that report has to go, it has to be signed off in order to show that the money was properly collected and was properly appropriated in terms of what we spent the money on, in terms of catalyzing or supporting the recovery of pesticide containers and also recovery and disposal of acute pesticides.
Wow, seems like there's a lot of milestones that have been reached since the CropLife South Africa's PRO, Quade. Can you give us some indication of the CropLife South Africa's PRO successes in 2024?
Duncan, I just want to take you back. Remember when we started off with our episodes and referring back to episode 451, the compliance with NEMA Act and what producers and users of pesticides should know. Remember we were discussing there on certain farms that we still found out that there are still plastics and stuff being burnt or just dumped and buried in ground. So these are the initiatives that our system and the PRO is looking at eradicating at the present moment in time. I can honestly say huge successes for us, especially in protecting the environment and the safe and responsible disposal of the spent-to-use packaging, such as in drums, as doctors specifically mentioned, and also reducing the obsolete pesticides. To give you more specific details here, CropLife has in this period of this year, we actually bought shredding machines for our recyclers, where we have placed 2 shredding machines in the Eastern Cape, one in the Eastern Cape and one in Gauteng. And then we also purchased 3 granulators. One was in KZN and the others also in the Eastern Cape and as well as in the Western Cape. And then the baler, which is the mobile unit where this baler is actually constructed and fitted on a mobile trailer, and the recycler actually goes from farm to farm and he does the collection and the baling of the waste drums on site and transports the way from there. So in total, and a doctor can help me here, and I'm giving you approximately at the present moment, we're sitting with 96,000 tons of obsolete stocks that we have actually obtained and have incinerated successfully. The amount of plastics this year has also been increased tremendously, especially with the new initiatives that we had in our Gauteng area, which has taken off greatly, and then the new one in KZN. There is a greater awareness as well, Duncan, that we've created with farmer group studies, where we've had discussion on farms with farmers, and that is how we've actually started collecting all these obsolete stocks and having them safely disposed and destructed or incinerated. The other one is then also the recycling material that is collected is being recycled and is putting back into the manufacturing of new packaging material. I don't know, Doctor, if you would like to come in more on that and give Duncan more details on that.
one of the great successes, and this is not only for the CropLife SA PRO, but this goes back to all our recyclers, and most of them are autonomous. They run their own businesses, and I'm very proud to say that we've got 161 recyclers associated with us or certified by us, and they make pretty good money. Some of the people make a real fortune, and there are very big operators, like in the Free State, Dramosa, for example. They do 1,000 tons of HDPE that they collect every year and recycle every year. A company like MyPlast in Western Cape, they do over 800 tons, and they're individual people. And I'm going to mention Dani Dreyer and Lucas. Those people do anything between 220 and 300 tons of plastic per year on their own. And a lot of the plastic, like Quade said, goes back into manufacturing of new pesticide drums. And we're the second country in the world that manufactures a new pesticide drum by using material coming out of an old pesticide drum that are properly cleaned and recycled and melted and going back into the system. And if we are lucky enough by Monday afternoon, 5 o'clock, the CropLife PRO together with A Thermal, which does the incineration for us, would have disposed of 101,000 kilograms of upright pesticide that came off farms and out of the hands of pest control operators and out of the hands of some of our members. And that's exactly what our target was for this year, which was set for us by the DFE to collect and dispose of 100 tons of 100,000 kilograms of upright pesticides. So on that note, I think we've just about hit our target. Now, I can't tell you currently what we've done in terms of the packaging because we haven't got the data in, but my guess is that we will probably, in terms of the plastics, recover 87% or more than what they put into the market during 2024, which is also really good because compared to Europe is not sitting even at 54% of the plastics they collect. So this little country down in the southern tip of Africa that is showing the rest of the world how one should operate. And I'm not saying we don't have problems. We have some very serious glitches here and there, and Quade knows that we have pesticides which are buried in the farms, and we've got farmers who still burn pesticide dumps or bury the stuff or don't clean them properly. So we have a lot of hurdles ahead of us, but the successes, I think, outperform the little hurdles we've had in this year and in the past couple of years. And I do thank all the farmers that work with us, and I do also thank profoundly all our recyclers out there that work day and night to take the pesticide containers off the farms and out of the hands of the pest control operators, and very soon also out of the hands of consumers, and put them back into a new type of commodity. It might be a new pesticide drum. It might be one of these things where they make the plastic wood out of. It might go into a refuse bag. But our policy is not a single pesticide drum should be left on the farm, because there's a place for it somewhere in what we call the circular economy. And this is why we're also part of the SA Plastics Pact, because the vision of the Plastics Pact is that every single plastic commodity that you put in the market must come back into the circular economy and be used to manufacture something else. And we are working towards that dream. And there are a couple of naysayers who don't like what we're doing, but we are going to stimulate it, and we want to achieve our targets that were set for us by the DFFE and achieve every single target that we set together with them, and make sure that we comply with the regulations to the T.
Just for the future as well and going forward, I just wanted to bring in here that we are basically starting with 2 new initiatives as well for the pest control, with doing all the rodenticides, all of that waste material. We're also setting up collection points for that going forward in 2025, as well as looking at all the consumer products and waste material that they generate from all the nurseries throughout Southern Africa as well, because these are initiatives that we saw that there are gaps in the market, and we're taking the lead on these as well. Something to look out for going forward.
That was, of course, Dr. Gerhard Verdoon, Operations and Stewardship Manager at CropLife South Africa, and Quade Sing Jam, Compliance Specialist at CropLife South Africa. You can, of course, read more on this topic by visiting www.freedomzansi.co.za. And that's a wrap. Remember to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform so you never miss any of the episodes. From me, Duncan Masiwa, our technical producer, Megan van der Vent, and the rest of #Team Food from Zanzi. Thanks for listening.
Africa's dopest gathering for young farmers is back. Don't miss your chance to join the who's who of agriculture, from top-tier experts to game-changing farmers, at the Mzansi Young Farmers Indaba on the 1st and 2nd April 2025 in Pretoria. Early bird tickets are now available, so head to farmingindaba.com to get your full access pass for a discounted price. That's farmingindaba.com for early bird access to a full access pass. Don't miss out.